I'm the only scholarship kid at this elite private academy. My stepsister, who barely got in by pulling strings, makes it her mission to torment me. You and the heirs here are from two different worlds, you know that? Poor trash like you shouldn't even dream of getting close to rich people. It's just disgusting. But all I did was catch a small cold and take 3 days off. When I got back to class, my stepsister stared in shock. The school's biggest players, the student council president, the basketball captain, the head of the academic committee, all these golden boys were crowded around me. They grabbed my arms and wrists, begging desperately, "Mia, you're finally back. We couldn't survive without you. Please, please don't ever leave us again." Northwood Academy is a top-tier prep school. Almost every student here is either rich or powerful. Except for me. My grades were just too good to ignore. So in the middle of my junior year, I transferred in. I became the only regular student the academy had accepted in decades. The headmaster was so determined to have me that he waived all my tuition fees. But the night before school started, my mom was still worried sick. She complained nervously while helping me pack. I heard Northwood isn't just expensive, the cost of living on campus is way higher than outside. What if I don't earn enough? What if you go hungry? Ever since my deadbeat dad left us to marry into money, my mom and I have had it tough. And recently my grandma got sick. Mom kept it from me so I could focus on school. She was just out of the house from dawn till dusk, working multiple jobs. That's why I made a promise to myself. No matter what, I would stand on my own 2 feet. I would earn my own living expenses. On my first day at the new school, I was already trying to figure out what kind of part-time jobs I could find on campus. Suddenly, a message popped up in the class group chat ID just joined. "Anyone available to grab lunch for me? $500 for your trouble." $500? Oh my God. That was more than 2 weeks of lunch money for me. Could a deal this good actually exist? I was about to type out a reply and snag this incredibly profitable gig, but someone else beat me to it. 500? Are you kidding me, Leo? Your dad's a real estate mogul worth billions. You can't be that cheap, can you? Dude, look around. Who here needs $500? Obviously, in this prestigious academy, no one was hurting for a little cash. Except for poor me. Should I speak up now? Before I could decide, Leo replied. His words were short and crisp. "Oh, 1,000 then? 2, 5, 8. Seriously, how much are you trying to rip me off for just getting lunch?" That was probably his final offer. I quietly raised my hand. I can get your lunch for you. The lunch from the cafeteria only cost $20. But for that one trip, I earned $8,000. Soon enough, the story of me getting lunch for Leo spread throughout our class. That's when I learned that the great Leo posted a lunch bounty in the group chat almost every day. And not a single person was ever willing to take the job. To them, money was the last thing they cared about. An amount like that was probably what their families made in a second. The only problem was Northwood Academy's strict boarding school rules. No personal butlers or maids allowed, and most daily necessities had to be bought on campus. It was a huge adjustment for a lot of these trust fund kids. When my new roommate saw the chat history, she tried to warn me. "Mia," she said, "why are you running errands for Leo? He's just lazy. Don't be fooled by his looks. He's got a terrible personality. And that crew he hangs out with? They're no saints either. They're a bunch of rebels, always complaining that the school's too strict. You're better off staying away from him." Since I had just transferred, my new roommates didn't know I was a scholarship kid yet. But it wasn't something I could hide forever. I tilted my head and smiled. "It's okay. I'm just doing it for the money. I'm actually a regular student, the kind on a full scholarship. So a few $1,000 is a pretty big deal for me." To my surprise, my roommates didn't look down on me after learning I was a regular kid. The next day, one of them even left a cupcake on my desk. There was a small note tucked underneath it that said, "You got this." The other surprise was Leo. After I delivered his lunch, he messaged me that evening. He got straight to the point. "Mia, hello. I was wondering if you could keep getting my lunch? And if you were willing to run other errands, what would your rate be?" I froze. I was a little stunned. I'd never done this kind of work before, and there was definitely no market rate. I had no idea what to charge. I guess I took too long to reply, because Leo sent another message explaining, "Don't worry, it won't be too much. Mainly just grabbing lunch, and then picking up a new issue of a business magazine in the afternoon. You can just leave it for me downstairs. Just text me, and I'll come down to get it. If any other emergencies pop up, I might need your help, but I'll let you know." How does 20,000 a month sound? 20,000? 20,000 a month for a few simple errands? Was it really this easy to make money off rich people? I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the urge to immediately say yes. "Hey, how about this, Leo? I'll charge you 16 grand a month. And if any of your friends need errands run, can you have them contact me? 2 clients were definitely better than 1. And if I could get a few more, I could cover grandma's surgery and hospital bills. Mom wouldn't have to work herself to the bone anymore, and things at home would finally get easier." Leo agreed. And just like that, we had a deal. He was true to his word. He really didn't ask for much, making him a super easy client to work for. He wired the 20,000 in advance. Every day at noon, I'd go to the cafeteria and pick up his lunch according to his request. After a while, I memorized all his favorite dishes. Eventually, I could guess what he wanted without him even having to say it. In the afternoons, I'd deliver the new business journal to him. Leo was a man of very few words. We barely spoke when we saw each other every day. As for those emergencies, they pretty much never happened. Well, except for one time. It was almost 10 at night. I had already washed up and was tucked into my dorm bed. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Leo. "Sorry to bother you. Can you buy me a small cake? I think the convenience store near the girls' dorms is the only one still open. I can't go over there myself. Can you meet me at the flower beds in the Central Plaza?" Of course I could. 20 grand a month. As a dedicated gig worker, I practically vaulted out of bed. I threw on my coat and left the dorm without a second thought. The campus store was huge, almost like a small mall in the city. After buying the cake, I headed to our meeting spot. It was only a few minutes' walk. I spotted Leo right away. He was sitting on a stone bench with his back to me. The warm yellow lamplight cast a golden halo around him. For some reason, he looked incredibly lonely. He must have heard my footsteps. He turned around. "Mia," he said when he saw me. I handed the bag to Leo. It was so late. Why would he suddenly have a craving for dessert? Of course, that wasn't a question a paid employee should be asking. After delivering the goods, I should have just headed back. But on some weird impulse, I stopped. I watched as Leo lowered his head and slowly unwrapped the package. He took the cake out and placed it on his lap. He didn't move or take a bite. He just stared at it quietly. Then he suddenly turned to me and smiled. It was a pleading kind of smile. "Can you stay here with me for a little while? It's my birthday today." It must be his 18th birthday. Even though Northwood was a boarding school with strict rules, students were allowed to take a day off for major events like their 18th birthday to celebrate with their parents. So without even thinking, the words just slipped out. "Why didn't you go home? Aren't you allowed to?" The moment I said it, I realized it was the wrong thing to ask. Leo leaned back and looked up. His voice was softer. "Yeah, but my dad's getting remarried today." I didn't want to bother him. He probably forgot it was my birthday anyway. I sat down next to Leo. I didn't say anything for a long time. I just listened quietly as he told his story. Leo must have been in a really bad place to need a listener so desperately. He talked about his parents. His mother was a beautiful woman who had married his father for money. She used her son to secure her position. But when Leo was still very young, she hooked up with an even richer, more powerful man. She divorced his father, remarried, and moved abroad. She never once came back to see him. His father was angry and sad for maybe a few months, but then a steady stream of new women started appearing by his side. He stopped caring about his son too. No matter how well Leo did in school or what awards he won, his father completely ignored him. Gradually, Leo started to give up on himself. He tilted his head toward me and gave a self-deprecating smile. "So now I barely even go to class. I just stay in my dorm and study investments. Because as long as you have money," he said, "everyone will flock to you, right?" A cool night breeze blew past us. Leo stood up, lowered his head, and pinched the bridge of his nose. Getting it all out seemed to have cleared his head. He reverted to his usual quiet, reserved self. Sorry. I've wasted your time. Thanks for the cake. I'll eat it when I get back. Leo picked up the cake and was about to leave. Honestly, hearing his story about his parents reminded me of my own. My dad was so much like his mom. A classic social climber. The second he found someone richer, he abandoned my mom and me without a second thought. Maybe it was because I knew exactly how he felt. I glanced at my watch and called out to him. Leo, the dorms lock in 20 minutes. Can you wait for me for a second? He blinked, looking a little confused, but nodded. So I sprinted back to the campus store, bought a box of candles and a lighter. When I got back, Leo was still there. I stuck the candles in his cake and lit them. You don't have to pay me for the cake. It's on me, I said softly. I'm from a single-parent home too. My dad's a deadbeat, but some things we can't change. We just have to look forward, right? Happy birthday, Leo. The flames flickered to life, slowly illuminating his face. After a moment, Leo closed his eyes. I think he actually made a wish. I didn't disturb him until the clock tower bells began to ring. The dorms were closing in less than 5 minutes. I quickly handed the cake to Leo and waved goodbye as I started to leave. After I turned around, it was his turn to call my name. Mia. He seemed a little embarrassed as he tilted his head. Thank you. This is the first time in years that someone celebrated my birthday with me. I remember our deal. Actually, a couple of my friends need some help these days. I'll introduce you to them. Leo said his 2 friends were loaded. He told me I could charge them whatever I wanted without feeling bad about it. What I didn't expect was for him to pull me directly into their dorm's group chat. South Dorm, room 428. Besides Leo, there were 3 other guys. They were all in my class, but I didn't know them well. We'd barely spoken, and I could only just match their names to their faces. One was Jake, the captain of the school's basketball team. I'd heard he led the team to 2 consecutive state championships, and he was super popular with everyone in our grade. Another was Noah, the head of the academic committee. Before I arrived, he had always been at the top of our class. Until the last major exam, when I transferred in and took his #1 spot. And the last person, Alex, the student council president. Cold, serious, and completely unapproachable. I had never spoken a word to him. I only knew from my roommate that his entire family was in politics, and they were incredibly powerful. They were one of those dynasties that basically no one in the entire state could afford to cross. It was only after being added to the group chat that I realized these 3 were Leo's roommates. I was a little lost and unsure what to do at first. But soon, Jake broke the slightly awkward silence. He was straightforward and radiated a sunny energy. Yes. It's Mia. We've met before, remember? When I first got here, I got my knee kicked on the court. You helped me find some ice for it. I never got to thank you. I think that did happen. But honestly, my first day was such a blur that I barely remembered. I had a vague impression of a guy with a towel over his face, surrounded by a crowd. His friends were yelling for someone to get ice to bring the swelling down. And I just happened to have a bag of it. That person. That was Jake. He seemed to have a boisterous and outgoing personality. He was the one doing most of the talking in the chat. After a moment, the conversation shifted from the ice pack to a car accident he and Noah were in recently. So, Mia, let me tell you about what happened with me and Noah. Here's the deal. A few days ago, our families celebrated a business deal. We were heading back from dinner when there was a small accident. So now we're both stuck in private rooms at the campus clinic. And since the school doesn't allow private nurses or anything, we were hoping to ask you if you could help look after us after school for a little while. Leo said you might agree, so he just went ahead and added you to our dorm chat. This way, it's easier for all of us to talk to you. Leo was right. Since they were patients, it was a request I'd have a hard time refusing. Besides, I'd be getting paid. The other person involved, Noah, messaged me. Mia, don't worry about the price. Neither Jake nor I will haggle. After all, we're the ones asking for a favor. Well, in that case, I wouldn't hold back. After all, these trust fund kids weren't short on cash. The details were quickly sorted out. Leo was busy with something else, so he didn't join our discussion. As for Alex, he barely said a word. From start to finish, he just seemed cold and annoyed. Why don't you guys just kick me out of the group chat? This is so noisy. It's driving me crazy. Unbelievable. I'm not that dense. After spending half a day in that group chat, I could tell that Alex didn't have a very high opinion of me. His family was the definition of old money. That was different from Leo's family, who had become rich overnight and quickly climbed the social ladder. In the eyes of powerful people like the family Alex came from, there was a clear line. Regular people were regular people, and aristocrats were aristocrats. There was a huge gap between us and their bloodlines that went back centuries. It was already strange enough that we went to the same school. Now we were in the same class and had been thrown into the same group chat. Expecting him to treat me like a friend was probably asking too much of Alex. So, I privately added Jake and Noah and told them to contact me directly if they needed anything. I asked them not to post in the group chat anymore. During the day, in class, I would occasionally see Alex. I knew he couldn't be bothered with me, so I just steered clear of him. As for after school, my schedule quickly filled up. After dropping off what Leo needed, I would head straight to the campus clinic to check on Jake and Noah. Jake and Noah had been in a car accident on their way back to school from a dinner party. It was pouring rain that night, and the driver had had a little too much to drink. The car slammed into a guardrail. Luckily, no one was seriously injured. They both just needed about a week of rest and treatment before they could be discharged. As a top-tier private school, Northwood Academy's on-campus clinic was equipped with the best resources. Otherwise, parents wouldn't feel comfortable sending their children here. So there wasn't much for me to do, just some basic caregiving. On the first day, as planned, I went to Jake's room. When I pushed the door open, the first thing I saw was a guy with bright red hair. Jake was wearing blue hospital pajamas, leaning back against the headboard. His left leg was in a cast, and he was spinning a basketball on his right fingertip. Hearing the door open, he leaned toward me. Sunlight streamed in through the window, illuminating his face. He had a high nose bridge and handsome features, looking like he'd walked right out of a Japanese manga. No wonder Jake was so popular with his classmates. Thud. The basketball fell, rolling to my feet. Jake looked up, gave me an enthusiastic wave, and flashed a brilliant, handsome smile. Mia, you're here. Awesome. I've been waiting for you. Jake told me they had a semi-final basketball game in 2 weeks. He was their star player. Without him on the court, they didn't stand a chance. But now that he was injured, things had gotten complicated. I need someone to help me with my rehab, so I can recover enough to play. So I'm going to have to ask for your help, Mia. It won't be too much trouble. You just have to help support me so I can do some muscle and joint exercises. Jake looked at me, his hands pressed together. He had puppy dog eyes that blinked and sparkled. Oh my God! Who could possibly resist that? I nodded slightly and agreed. The next moment, Jake reached his arm out. I thought I just needed to help him stand. Instead, he wrapped his arm around my shoulder, pulling me into something like a hug. He leaned slightly into me. He reached up, lifted the hem of his shirt, and wiped the sweat from his forehead. I didn't mean to look, but out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of his 8-pack abs. They were perfectly defined and powerfully sculpted. My ears turned red, and I quickly looked away. I heard a low cough from beside me. Am I too heavy? I sighed and took a deep breath. It's okay. But are you sure this is the fastest way to recover, Jake? Maybe I could try massaging your leg. When my grandma was sick and bedridden, I taught myself some basic nursing care. I wasn't an expert, but luckily, I'm a fast learner. I had picked up the basics. After helping Jake back onto the bed, I tried massaging his leg for about 15 minutes. At first, Jake was a bit skeptical, but soon his eyes widened. He exclaimed over and over, "Whoa, Mia, you're amazing. Is there anything you can't do?" I'm not kidding, my calf muscle feels so much more relaxed. Can you press that spot again? Yeah. Right there. I glanced at the clock and stopped. The next moment, Jake shot up and looked at me. Why'd you stop? Mia, you're not leaving, are you? I slung my backpack over my shoulder. Yeah. Time's up. We only agreed on this much time. I still have to go see Noah. Compared to Jake, Noah was much easier to handle. He didn't have any urgent sports competitions to get back to. He was also gentle and calm, and he almost never got angry or anxious. When I walked in with my backpack, he was sitting on his bed. A small table was set up in front of him, covered with workbooks and textbooks. When he saw me, he set his notebook aside and gave me a soft smile. "You're here." Jake wasn't too much trouble, was he? He seems all laid back, but he's actually super clingy. I thought about how Jake had been tugging on my sleeve when I left. He said he was going to call Noah and ask if I could stay a little longer. And he kept making me promise I would come back tomorrow. I nodded in complete agreement. "You're lucky you said no to him on the phone," I said. "Otherwise, I was afraid I wouldn't have time to do my homework today." Noah let out a soft laugh. He leaned over slightly and pushed a small table by his bed toward me, gesturing for me to sit. "You're worried about not finishing your homework? With your talent, I feel like you could skip homework forever and still ace your exams." "Oh right, Mia." He pulled a test paper out of his bag and handed it to me. "Could you do me a favor? On the last big exam, you were the only one in the whole school who got a perfect score in math. I got stuck on this last problem. My thinking gets jumbled at this step. Could you walk me through it?" I had a strong suspicion that Noah hired me because he was after my STEM skills. After all, before I showed up, he had always been the undisputed top student in our grade, the genius no one could touch. Until I transferred. On the first major test, I scored a full 20 points higher than him in math and science combined. After I finished explaining the problem, Noah's face lit up with understanding. He picked up his pen and scribbled a few formulas on his scratch paper. He let out a long breath. "So that's how it works. I was stuck on that one calculation." "Mia, you're incredible. How did you even think of that?" "I've been in honors classes my whole life, but honestly, I've never met a student as brilliant as you." He was praising me so much I was starting to feel embarrassed. I touched the tip of my nose and returned the compliment out of politeness. "No, not at all. You're amazing too, Noah. Your foreign language scores are way higher than mine, and your essays. Doesn't the teacher always use yours as the model example? I could never write like that." It wasn't an empty compliment. When it came to the humanities, Noah was definitely superior, especially in the extra language courses. As an elite academy, Northwood required students to master basic Spanish and French in addition to the standard curriculum. It didn't count toward our overall grade ranking, but it did affect scholarship applications. As a regular kid who'd never been exposed to any of this, the requirement was giving me a massive headache. But Noah just squinted his eyes, stretched, and smiled. "If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you for a favor, Mia. I can't go to class right now. After school each day, could I borrow your math and science notes to copy? If you can. How about this? You tutor me in math, and I'll tutor you in foreign languages." Of course I agreed. When you thought about it, I was the one getting the better end of the deal. After all, Noah was still paying me. My daily routine quickly fell into a steady rhythm. After dropping off Leo's things in the afternoon, I would go to the campus clinic for an hour of rehab with Jake. The rest of my time was spent in Noah's room, working on class assignments with him. All in all, besides my roommates who went to class and ate meals with me every day, the people I knew best at school were these three guys. Probably because Noah was so gentle and patient, he was the easiest to be around. He wasn't cold and intense like Leo, nor was he the super clingy big puppy type like Jake. Plus, we were always discussing all sorts of academic problems together. Gradually, I started spending more and more time with him. Until one evening, our math teacher had a sudden burst of inspiration. To really challenge us, he pulled a massive problem from a college textbook and assigned it. He told the whole class to go home and think about it. I brought the problem to the clinic and showed it to Noah. Like me, he had a few ideas, but not many. We brainstormed 5 or 6 different approaches, trying them one by one. We worked on it until 9 o'clock. Finally, using the most brute force method, we found the answer. At that moment, Noah tossed the scratch paper aside, leaned toward me excitedly, and grabbed my hand. "I can't believe that last step actually worked. Mia, it's a good thing you used that one formula, otherwise, we might have been calculating until tomorrow and still not finished." I froze. I instinctively glanced down at our hands. For some reason, I started to feel flustered. He's just celebrating solving a problem with you, Mia. A moment later, I cleared my throat and pulled my hand back. Then, pretending like nothing happened, I reached for my phone and backpack. But our method was still too clunky. There has to be a simpler way. We can try to figure it out together next time. It's getting really late. I need to get back to the dorm. Otherwise, my roommates will start asking questions. The moment my phone screen lit up, I fell silent. Noah looked up and tilted his head. What's wrong? Is it your roommates? I smacked my forehead and stomped my foot in frustration. No. It's Leo. He called me 2 or 3 times. I forgot to bring him his magazine this afternoon. How could I do that? I was genuinely kicking myself. Because I went to the bookstore so often, I had the owner's contact info. He had told me earlier that he had to step out for a bit and would be back around 7. He said if I still needed it then, he'd set aside the business journal I always bought. That was my plan. But when the time came, I was so engrossed in discussing math with Noah that I completely forgot. I bit my lip in self-reproach and tugged at my hair. Leo paid me so well, and he was my first client. Yet I couldn't even handle a simple errand like this. That was just awful. Noah tried to comfort me, saying it was no big deal. He said it wasn't like Leo spent every day studying financial theories anyway. I mumbled in agreement. I picked up my phone, dialing Leo back as I ran out the door. He picked up almost immediately. I had just gotten the word sorry out when Leo cut me off. Where are you? Don't go by the magazine, I already went. Turn around, will you? I had just stepped out of the clinic's main entrance. I turned around. Leo was standing under a streetlight. It was just like that night we celebrated his birthday together. A hazy yellow halo of light enveloped him. Leo was wearing a light jacket. I couldn't tell if he was just passing by, or if he'd been waiting there for a long time. He raised his wrist and glanced at his watch. Why so late? It's past 9. I remember Jake and Noah promising they'd only occasionally ask you to run errands, just like me, that it wouldn't be too much trouble. I'm sorry. If you're too tired, do you want me to step in and cancel those 2 jobs for you? Huh. Leo's reaction was not what I expected at all. Shouldn't I be the one apologizing? Didn't he come all this way to chew me out? Seeing me just standing there, stunned and silent, Leo quickly added, Are you worried about the income? It's fine, I can. I shook my head, about to interrupt him and say that things at the clinic weren't as bad as he thought, when another voice suddenly cut in from behind me. Ah, is this the Leo the first? No? Since when did you become so meddlesome and helpful? The voice was familiar. I turned to look. It was Alex. At this time of night, he was probably on his way back from helping out at the school's administrative office. He was holding a thick stack of file folders. It looked like materials and records a teacher had given him. In the dim shadows, it was hard to make out his expression. I think my dorm is cursed. Do you believe me, Mia? From what I understand, Jake and Noah's injuries should have healed in a week. But for some reason, they've both insisted on staying in the hospital until now. Strange, isn't it? Is our campus clinic really that comfortable? Alex let out a cold laugh. In the moonlight, he looked at Leo and curled his lip. And then there's the great Leo, who hates trouble more than anything. That magazine you're reading every day has a digital version, doesn't it? Something you could solve by just tapping your finger on your phone or computer. Yet you're willing to go through the trouble of getting dressed up, picking out the perfect outfit half an hour in advance, and then timing it just right to wait downstairs. I'm starting to seriously wonder, have you all been poisoned or something? I looked up at Leo in surprise. A clear blush spread across his cheeks. He rushed over and grabbed Alex's arm. He was furious, like someone whose deepest secret had been exposed. He was trembling, a mix of embarrassment, awkwardness, and shame. Have I? What are you talking about? When have I ever done that? Alex used his other arm to block Leo's move. He sighed. Okay, fine. I'm blind. I'm making it all up. Happy now? Just pretend that I've also come down with broken legs and a case of terminal laziness, and want to hire Mia for help. Deal. I thought Alex was just bickering with Leo. But to my surprise, when I got back to my dorm, He had actually sent me a contact request. Like all the other heirs, even if he was cold and arrogant on the inside, his outward manners were impeccable. Alex was perfectly polite, leaving no room for complaint. He started by apologizing for what happened that night. "I'm sorry, my tone can be harsh sometimes. I didn't scare you, did I?" He paused. Seeing that I didn't seem annoyed, Alex continued. "Jake and Noah were supposed to be discharged a couple of days ago. It's not right for them to keep delaying, so I reminded the school to push them. They'll probably be back in the dorm tomorrow. In that case, your agreement with them should be over. Correct?" I was thinking, if you have some free time opening up, maybe you could take a job for me. I took a deep breath and frowned. Seriously? For real? To be honest, I didn't really enjoy being around Alex. Even though they were all rich, Leo, Jake, and Noah, despite their different personalities, at least felt natural and friendly. Only Alex, perhaps because of his family background, always gave off an unapproachable vibe. I was just about to refuse when the next message popped up on my screen, making an offer I couldn't possibly turn down. "It won't take up much of your time. Professor Hayes, have you heard of him? He's my grandfather's youngest brother. He's in his 70s and spent his entire life teaching at a top university up north. He just retired and moved back. He's an alumnus of Northwood, so the school gave him a private house as an award. It's near the faculty housing. The old man lives alone and gets a little bored sometimes. Could you go visit him and keep him company for a few days? As a favor to me." Professor Hayes was one of the top mathematicians in the country. There wasn't a student who hadn't heard his name. When I first transferred to Northwood, my homeroom teacher, who had been so kind to me, even mentioned him. I believe the great Professor Hayes also graduated from that academy. Since you have the opportunity to study there, you should look to him as a role model and strive to achieve great things yourself. The thought of meeting my idol made all my excuses vanish. I fumbled with my phone, typing and deleting over and over. In the end, I managed to send just a few words. "Really? I can meet Professor Hayes?" Alex replied quickly. "Yes. I'm swamped with student council business and can't get away. I know he has a soft spot for smart, hardworking students, so you're actually the perfect person for this, Mia." I don't know what Alex did, but the very next day, Jake and Noah were officially discharged. As per our agreement, I no longer had to take care of them. However, neither of them seemed particularly happy about it. Jake sent me a flurry of messages first thing in the morning. "Ugh, it's all Alex's fault, that tattletale. What does he care if I stay in the hospital for a few days? Mia, you're not mad at me, are you? I really just wanted to spend more time with you. Ah." A little while later, Noah called. "Alex, why can't he stand to see anyone else happy?" For the first time ever, I heard someone as gentle as him sound genuinely annoyed. "So Mia, can we still study together tonight? I remember you said there was a simpler way to solve that problem we were working on, right?" I didn't say yes. The chance to meet Professor Hayes was just too tempting. "But Noah," I said, "if I learn a different method, I promise you'll be the first one I tell." Professor Hayes lived right on campus. Even though it was a high school, Northwood Academy's campus was huge. I borrowed my roommate's bike and rode for a good 20 minutes before I got there. In front of me were several rows of small, private houses with their own yards. Behind them were hills and a garden nursery, a beautiful view. I'd heard only alumni who had made significant contributions received such an award for free. I took a deep breath. I found the address Alex had sent me and walked respectfully to the professor's house. The door was ajar. Just then, a cup flew out and shattered on the ground. "That little brat Alex is trying to kill me. I've been back at the school for ages, and he's only come to see me once, on the very first day. Does he even have any respect for his elders? Is that how his father raised him? And this student council nonsense, what's the point of that? I don't care. I already made him promise he'd come play chess with me these next few days. No more of that useless stuff." The old man finished his tirade, still clutching the phone. He turned around. Sunlight streamed in through the window. When he saw me, a look of complete bewilderment crossed his face. "Hey, did you guys tell everyone I was back on campus for a quiet vacation? Why is there a little girl standing at my door? Don't tell me you're lost." I hesitated. I'm sorry, I think I took a wrong turn. But maybe. Would you like to play a game of chess, sir? Clearly, Alex hadn't told the professor I was coming. And even more clearly, given the professor's grumpy and impatient nature, if I told him right now that I was just the fill-in Alex sent, wouldn't that just make him even angrier? He might not only kick me out but also call Alex and chew him out. With no other choice, my eyes darted to the chessboard nearby. Sure enough, the next moment, as soon as he heard me mention chess, the old professor's expression changed completely. His eyes even started to sparkle. You play? Good, I was getting bored. Come on, let's play a game. But I'm warning you, don't cry when you lose. As it turned out, it wasn't me who lost. It was Professor Hayes. To be fair, the old man was a really good player. But as luck would have it, my grandma happens to be a chess master who won several national championships in her youth. Before she got sick, she taught me how to play all the time. I was a quick learner and good at strategy. Over time, I got pretty good myself. So without needing any help from Alex, just through a few games of chess, Professor Hayes and I became fast friends. By the end of the afternoon, the professor had lost so many times he didn't want to let me leave. The 70-something-year-old man started acting like a sore loser, sipping a soda. Just let me think for a minute longer. No, wait. I can't move there. Can I take it back? Just this once, give me a break, will you, Mia? I cleared my throat twice, pretending to hesitate. Then I slowly took out my backpack, pulled out the math problem Noah and I had been working on, and casually placed it in front of the professor. A break. I suppose I could. But a few days ago, our teacher gave us this really tough problem. Another student and I thought about it for a long time, and this is the only solution we could come up with. Professor, do you see any other way to solve it? The professor was desperate for another game. He didn't even question why I was asking him a math question. He just waved his hand and grabbed the paper. He glanced at it for a second, and then let out a sigh. How could anyone use such a clumsy method? Did you eat too much for dinner, and not know what to do with all that energy? Go get some scratch paper. I'll walk you through the entire concept. At first, Alex didn't like Mia. He couldn't understand why she was so popular. It wasn't just his 3 roommates. The entire class seemed to have been won over by her. They were a group of privileged kids being groomed to take over family empires, raised on a diet of dirty tricks and backstabbing. They were supposed to be cold and wary, even with friends and classmates. But somehow, after this one regular transfer student arrived, everyone miraculously started to change. When someone occasionally asked for help in the group chat, other students slowly started to offer. Jake said dismissively, "You don't get it. Mia is like a ray of sunshine. No one can resist her charm. When you accept kindness from someone, you start thinking about how you can pay it forward." Alex really didn't get it. She was just a regular student doing odd jobs for money, right? So he decided to follow his roommate's lead and give Mia a task. He admitted that when he first asked Mia to visit Professor Hayes for him, he was doing it partly for the drama. Professor Hayes had a notoriously bad temper, a fact well known throughout their entire family. He was arrogant, banking on his fame and the pride of an old-school intellectual, and he seemed to find fault with everyone. Alex didn't believe that even someone as grumpy as the old man could see Mia any differently. He figured maybe it wouldn't even take an afternoon. Mia herself would probably get fed up and call him to cancel the deal. But he waited all afternoon. No call. The next day, and the day after that, still nothing. In class, Mia seemed perfectly normal. In fact, she even looked happier than before. Alex couldn't hold back any longer. He thought, maybe it was time he went to visit his granduncle himself. The day Alex went to see Professor Hayes, he had 3 stooges tagging along. The guys knew Mia had other plans every evening, but they didn't know where the professor lived. Now, under the pretext of also wanting to visit the professor, they insisted on coming with him. Alex knew exactly what they were up to. He couldn't be bothered to call them out, so he just let them come. Before they arrived, he had imagined the scene. Given the professor's temper, he probably argued with any unfamiliar stranger he met. But when they actually reached the small house, Alex froze. He saw the old man and Mia, each sitting on a small stool in front of the garden. A simple table was set up between them with a chessboard on it. The old man didn't look annoyed at all. His voice was full of excitement. Haven't I gotten much better lately? Thanks to your coaching last time, I've got some new ideas. Let's play again. Mia was smiling happily too. Okay, Professor. But I found a new problem. You have to teach me later, okay? The scene was too harmonious. So harmonious that it felt like something, like a small stone, had struck him in the heart. It made him stop in his tracks. He almost didn't want to break the rare, warm atmosphere. Until Jake, who was standing next to him, started yapping like an annoying beagle. Mia, we came to hang out. We brought you snacks. Want some? Alex rolled his eyes. Didn't you say you were coming to see the professor? Not even trying to pretend, are you? And yet, Mia actually ran over. What are you doing here? Don't you have practice tonight? I saw your semi-final game. You were amazing. But you still have the finals, right? You've got this. Then she went to greet Noah and Leo one by one. I've learned so many new things from the professor these past few days. I'll write them down, and we can discuss them during the break. And Leo, why did you come all this way? Are you here to see the professor? She spoke with each of them for a little while. She only completely ignored him. A bitter, strange pang of jealousy washed over him. Alex gritted his teeth. He probably didn't even notice that his gaze was constantly following Mia. After a moment, the professor himself walked over. The old man packed up the chessboard and clapped his great-nephew on the shoulder. You're the one who sent Mia over, right? The girl is smart, has a great personality, and is very perceptive. She knew I have a bad temper, so she never once mentioned that you refused to come see me yourself. She was probably afraid I'd call and yell at you. She's a good kid. It felt like something had hit him square in the chest. Alex shuddered slightly. He closed his eyes and whispered, yes, she is. You're right. She's a very, very good kid. Alex must have been on something lately. Ever since that visit to Professor Hayes's house, his attitude toward me was no longer so cold. Not only did he start coming with me to the professor's place after school, but he also found excuses to talk to me in class. The student council is hosting an event. Do you want to join? You can get extra credit, and it helps with scholarship applications. If you're interested, I can bring you the form later. This happened so often that it started to attract attention from others, especially his 3 roommates. The first one to get annoyed was Jake. He was always the type to say whatever was on his mind. When he saw Alex standing next to me again, he shot up from his seat. He ran over, grabbed my arm, and stood in front of me protectively. Alex, you got a lot of free time lately? You're always hovering around Mia. I feel like you're up to no good. You're not planning something, are you? Alex frowned. His expression was cold, and his tone was intimidating. What are you talking about? What could I possibly be planning? Like you wouldn't? Before he could finish, Leo and Noah came over. One accused, the other chimed in. I still remember how you looked down on regular students when we first started here. Weren't you complaining about how it was beneath you to go to the same school as her? Exactly. And I'm already planning on going to the same college as Mia. You. With your SAT scores, Jake? The 4 of them went back and forth, on the verge of a full-blown argument. Alex was quick on his feet, but he was outnumbered 1-3. He was slowly losing ground. I watched for a moment, wondering how long these guys were going to keep this up, and was about to sneak away, when someone from outside called my name. It was my homeroom teacher. Mia, come here for a second. Your family is here to see you. My family is here to see me? That's strange. My mom would have called me before coming. I'd been sending home the money I earned, and Grandma's condition was improving. She shouldn't have any urgent business. Lost in thought, I followed the teacher to the office. The door swung open, and I saw the absolute last person I ever expected to see. My biological father. The man who had abandoned my mother and me over a decade ago. Standing next to him was an extravagantly dressed woman, and a young girl with deep purple hair. The 3 of them heard the noise and turned to look at me in unison. Mr. Lin gave me an awkward, ingratiating smile. After more than 10 years, he said my name again. Mia. A few months after I was born, Mr. Lin left my mother to marry into a rich family. I took my mom's last name after that. Mr. Lin and his second, wealthy wife also had a daughter, just 3 months younger than me. She also went to Northwood Academy, but she was in the lowest ranked F-track class. The requirements for the F-track were minimal. As long as you had money, your grades just had to be passable. But this daughter's grades were abysmal. She failed multiple classes, skipped school, got into fights, and broke school rules. She was supposed to be expelled. Her mother pulled some strings and pleaded with the school. In the end, the administration showed some leniency. They offered her one last chance. Find a student from the top-tier A track to be her tutor. If that student was willing to help her, she could avoid expulsion for the time being. But every student in the A track came from a powerful family. The girl's mother couldn't get in touch with any of them. Then someone gave her a tip. I heard a scholarship kid from a poor family just transferred in. People like that are always desperate for money. I think her name is Mia. Just throw some money at her to help your daughter, Jenna. Problem solved, right? Why are you so worried? Mia. The name was too familiar. Mrs. Chen suddenly remembered something. She called over her trophy husband. One question was all it took. Sure enough, it was his first daughter. My teacher meant well. She knew I needed money and that I generally liked to help people. So she brought me here to ask for my opinion. If you're willing, we can report it to the school. Of course, this isn't mandatory. Before she could finish, she was cut off. Mrs. Chen shot me a nasty look and snorted. Do you even need to ask her? Of course she's willing. This is her sister. What, is she going to just stand by and watch her own sister get expelled? Besides, it's not like we're not paying her. I was speechless. After all these years, how did I suddenly have a sister? When my mom and I were working odd jobs all over town to pay for grandma's medical bills, I don't remember my dad coming around to claim me as his daughter. But now that I'd gotten into an elite high school, this family was suddenly eager to claim me as their own. I frowned slightly, shaking my head. It was ridiculous. I turned to the teacher, declined the offer, and prepared to leave without another word. I had just taken one step when someone grabbed my wrist. I turned to see my so-called stepsister. She stared at me, her flashy hair practically glowing with anger. So what if you've been in the A track for a few days? Who are you trying to impress? We offer you money and you turn it down? You really think you're one of them now, one of the trust fund kids? Poor trash, like you shouldn't even dream of getting close to rich people. Disgusting. My teacher was visibly shocked. She had no idea my relationship with my biological father was this bad. She had been standing off to the side, but now she rushed over to intervene. But someone else got there first. It was Jake, Noah, Leo, Alex. Oh wait. It wasn't just the 4 of them. I looked back. It seemed like my entire class had shown up. Jake's voice was the loudest. Who do you think you're talking to? You're the one who's disgusting. Leo grabbed my arm and gently pulled me behind him. Noah whispered words of comfort. A classmate was passing by the office and overheard you were being bullied. The second the news got back to class, everyone stood up. They all wanted to come and back you up. The office was large. Some people were standing inside, others were outside. But almost all of them were furious. That's so nasty. What does she mean, poor trash and rich people? Who is she? She doesn't look that rich to me. That's Jenna Chun from the F track. Her grades are so bad she's failed multiple classes. The school already sent her an expulsion notice. Now she knows how to beg the A track for help? Exactly. Mia's been here for a while. If she really thought of her as a sister, she would have come to see her at least once. It's better if she stays away. Mia is our treasure. The students from the A track weren't afraid of some small-time, new money business owner like the Chens. Alex pulled out a stack of documents and flipped to a specific page. He looked up at them. 3 demerits, for failed classes, multiple failed retakes. This is more than enough grounds for expulsion. The school gave her a chance. She's the one who didn't take it. You're not planning to make another scene now, are you? The Chens might look down on me, but they couldn't afford to offend so many powerful families. Mrs. Chen's face turned red, then pale. In the end, she couldn't say a word. She just grabbed her daughter and dragged her away. As the 3 of them were leaving, Mr. Lin paused beside me. He hesitated, as if he wanted to say a lot but couldn't find the words. His mouth opened and closed. Finally, he just sighed softly. Mia, you're doing great. I could tell my father wasn't happy. He had no status in the Chun family and spent his days walking on eggshells. He couldn't even say a word when his own daughter was disrespectful to him. The fawning, hopeful look he was giving me now made it obvious he thought I was turning out to be successful. He was trying to repair our relationship. He snuck a glance at Mrs. Chen's retreating back. Can we exchange numbers? Which college are you planning to go to? Dad can come visit you in the future. I curled my lip and looked at him. I let out a cold laugh. Dad, you think you've earned that? Get lost. Jake had been watching us the whole time. Hearing the commotion, he bounded over like a big dog. A sperm donor doesn't get to be called dad. Don't listen to him, Mia. Tell us which college you want to go to. We'll keep it a secret. After graduation, I went to the university where Professor Hayes used to teach. He had recommended it to me during one of our chess games. That university has a world-class STEM program. It's a good fit for you. If you're interested in mathematics, I'll introduce you to my best student. He's doing quite well for himself now. He can be your advisor. Before I chose my college, the guys from Leo's dorm kept messaging me, asking about my plans. For the sake of peace and quiet, I just posted an announcement in our group chat of 5. That's right. Jake had made me the group admin. Later, when the acceptance letters came out, Noah and Leo ended up at the same university as me. One was studying law, the other finance. Jake, being a student athlete, went to the athletic university in the same city. The biggest surprise was Alex. The family had a tradition. All the children had to study abroad. But in his sophomore year, he came back. As an exchange student, under my advisor. The 4 roommates from Northwood Academy's A track were all together again, becoming a small topic of conversation in our old class group chat. Wow, you guys barely talked to each other in high school. I had no idea you were all so close. Even going to college in the same city. Haha, you didn't know? Mia's there too. Hey, what do you mean by that? Don't leave us hanging. I'm not stupid. I had a pretty good idea of how they felt about me. I'd thought about it late at night. But I knew I had more important things to do. I thought about my dad. He fought tooth and nail to marry into a rich family. But was he truly happy? In my junior year, my research had a major breakthrough. After a conference, my advisor found me. He told me about a top-secret national project and asked if I wanted to join. The work would be incredibly difficult, but if we succeeded, it would be a world-changing discovery. That night, I filled out the application form. The group chat of 5 was still active. Leo, I'll wait for you. Noah, I knew I should have majored in STEM. Jake, they've got to need athletes over there, right? I can catch bad guys. Alex, if you need anything, just say the word. I'll help in any way I can. I sent an emoji to show I'd seen their messages. My bags were already packed. I was ready to start a new chapter of my life. The end.